The Contractor State License Board, or CSLB, receives thousands of applications each year, but nearly 45% of them are rejected because of incomplete or incorrect information. We don't want this to happen to you. This application tutorial is designed to help you fill out the license application and point out common mistakes and oversights to avoid, so your application won't be rejected or delayed. Review any section of this video as many times as you need to, and make sure to read the directions carefully. And while the first few pages may look scary, they're not really. Read them before you start. It'll save you a lot of time and headaches later. Plus, the application is only 5 pages. Not so bad, right? But before you begin filling this out, here are some things you need to remember. If you're a limited liability company that wants to apply for a California contractor license, use the specific LLC application that's available on our website. While some of the LLC application information is different, this video will be able to help you through the basic application process. While filling out this application, you'll see the terms qualifying individual and qualifier a lot on this application. The qualifier is the person who is responsible for the license's construction operations. The license qualifier must, within the last 10 years, have 4 years of journeyman level experience in the classification they're applying for. This is a requirement for all licenses issued by CSLB. What qualifies as a journeyman? Well, it's an experienced worker who is fully trained and able to perform the trade without supervision, as opposed to a trainee, helper, laborer, assistant, or apprentice. Parts of journey-level experience can be earned by completing an accredited apprenticeship program or earning a college degree in a related major, like engineering or landscape architecture. Okay, this is important. A U.S. Social Security number is required for you and everyone you're including on the license. Other forms of identification, like Canadian Social Insurance numbers or individual taxpayer identification numbers, cannot be substituted. The bottom line is, if you don't have a U.S. Social Security number, you can't be included on the application. Also important, if you get to a point where a certain section doesn't apply to you, write the letters NA for not applicable. Don't leave any space blank or ignore any of the sections. Seriously, we'd rather not reject or return your application for correction. And keep in mind that you can only submit one application at a time. And before you start, remember to type or use blue or black ink when filling this out. When CSLB receives your application, it is scanned into a computer system, and anything other than blue or black ink can't be read. Okay, now that we've gotten those basics out of the way, let's get started. Here is the beginning of the application. New license applicants must include a $300 non-refundable fee with the application. CSLB accepts money orders or personal, business, certified, or cashier's checks. Make it payable to the Registrar of Contractors. And please don't send cash. Don't worry about the $180 initial license fee for now. It will be requested after your application has been processed. At this point, you also have the option of donating to a special grant fund called the Construction Management Education Account. This account gives grants to qualified colleges and universities that teach construction management. If you donate, write down the amount you're including with your application fee. You can also write a separate money order or check payable to CSLB/Construction Management Education Account and include it with your application. Okay, let's take a look at Section 1. Have you established a business name? If you have, write it here on line 1, and keep in mind that the business name has to match the type of classification you're applying for and the type of business you operate. That means if your business name is John Doe Landscaping, you wouldn't be applying for a C10 electrical license. Instead, you'd be applying for a C27 landscaping license. And if you're a sole owner of a business, your business name can't be John Doe and Partners or John Doe Landscaping Incorporated, but just John Doe Landscaping. Don't worry if you don't have a business name established yet. Just write your full legal name here instead. On line 2, write the classification you're applying for. Remember, you need within the last 10 years 4 years of relevant journey-level hands-on experience within that trade to qualify for the license. You can refer to the list of classifications on page 3 of the application's General Information section. For line 3A, write in your current mailing address. P.O. boxes and private mailboxes are okay for this line only. However, on line 3B, you'll need to provide the physical street address of your business. For line 3C, include your business's phone and fax numbers. Sometimes these are the same number. And your email address. You can rest assured that your email will not be shared with any outside agencies or businesses. In Section 2, your business entity is the type of business you'll be operating. This can be a sole ownership, partnership, or corporation, but be sure to choose only one. And remember, there is a different application for limited liability companies. If you're operating as a sole ownership, you are the only one who owns the business. If you're operating as a partnership, you'll need to provide your Federal Employer Identification Number, or FEIN. This number was assigned to you by the U.S. Internal Revenue Service, or IRS. You'll need to have your partnership established with the IRS before applying for your contractor license. To register a partnership, you'll need to complete and mail in an IRS SS4 form. You can find more information about this on the IRS website. Personal Social Security numbers are not acceptable in place of the Federal Employer Identification Number. If you're operating as a corporation, include the California Corporation Number that was assigned to you by the California Secretary of State's office. Corporations must be registered and in good standing with the Secretary of State before applying for a contractor license. And the information that CSLB receives from you must match the official information listed in Secretary of State records. Section 3 is where you'll be filling out information on the qualifying individual. Remember, that's the person who has the relevant, journey-level, hands-on experience required for the license classification. On line 5A, be sure to include your full legal name, date of birth, and Social Security number. If you don't have a middle name, write the words "no middle name," or if your first or middle name is an initial, in parentheses, write the words "initial only" after the letter. For line 5B, include your physical residential address. P.O. boxes and private mailboxes are not acceptable here. Your address will not be made public unless your residential address is the same as your business address. For line 6, make sure to include any other CSLB licenses you're listed under, or any CSLB licenses you've held in the past. This is also where the qualifier identifies the percentage of ownership in the business. Remember, this needs to match the business type. For example, if you're a sole owner, you cannot own only 50% of the business. You'd own 100%, right? Just to help you out, ownership for the qualifier is usually broken down like this. A sole owner, meaning if the qualifier is the only one who owns the business, has 100% ownership. If the qualifier is a responsible managing employee, or RME, with another person acting as the sole owner, the qualifier would own 0%. Partnerships. Ownership between 2 or more people can vary from 1 to 99% per person. So the qualifier can own 1 to 99%, but the ownership of all listed individuals must equal 100%. If the qualifier is an RME, he or she would own 0%, while the other partners own 1 to 99% each. For California domestic corporations, if the qualifier is a responsible managing officer, or RMO, who will hold all titles, president, secretary, and treasurer, which you would specify on line 7, ownership can be from 0 to 100%. If the qualifier of the corporation is an RME with at least one other officer holding the president, secretary, or treasurer position, ownership is 0%. For foreign corporations, if the qualifier is an RMO, they would own 0 to 100% of the business. But if the qualifier is an RME of a foreign corporation with at least one other person acting as president, they would own 0%. If you're a little confused, you can always go back and go over this list as many times as you need to. Line 7 is where you'll let us know where your position is within the business. You can only check one. Owner can only mean sole ownership. A qualifying partner refers only to partnerships. And an RME, responsible managing employee, can qualify for any business type. An RMO, responsible managing officer or corporate officer, refers only to corporations. And you'll need to include your title, which can be president, secretary, treasurer, or simply an officer if you're a California domestic corporation. For foreign corporations, corporations that are either out of state or from other countries, only the name of the president is required. Next, CSLB exams are given in English. If you need the help of a translator, check the box on line 8 to request translator. Remember to date, sign, and print your name at the bottom of the page. You'd be surprised how many people forget to do this. Section 4 is for additional personnel only. That means if you're a sole owner of the business and the license isn't being qualified by an RME, you don't need to worry about completing this section. Just go to Section 5. But if the license is being qualified by an RME, their information will go in Section 3, and your information as the sole owner will go here. Also, if you have other people you want to include on the license, you'll need to fill this section out as completely for each of them as you did for yourself in the last few sections. If there are more than 4 additional members in your business, copy this page and use it to include other people's information. Remember that each box needs to be filled in. So for lines 9A through 9D, include their full legal name, date of birth, and include their U.S. Social Security number. Remember, if they do not have a U.S. Social Security number, they cannot be included on the license. Individuals included on the application also must provide their physical residential address. Do not use a P.O. box, private mailbox, or your business address as their address. Write in their title or position within the business. Check only the title or position that applies. Remember, there cannot be 2 owners if the business is a sole ownership, and a general partner is a working partner, while a limited partner is a financial backer. When all the information is provided, have each person date, sign, and print their name. For Section 5, it's important that you read every question carefully and answer all the questions accurately. These questions apply to you and everyone included on the application, unless the question indicates otherwise. If you check yes to questions 10, 11, or 12, you need to include a written statement on a separate sheet of paper with a detailed explanation for each situation. Take your time here. It's important that you fully understand what's being asked and what details you need to include in a written statement. Question 10 asks if you, anyone included on the application, and/or any immediate family members have been named in or responsible for any judgments, liens, or claims against bonds or cash deposits on a construction project. Take a look at the sentence that's in italic type for the definition of who is considered to be immediate family. If you check yes, you will need to include on a separate sheet of paper a list of all judgments, pending or not, liens, past due or unpaid bills, claims, or lawsuits, with a detailed explanation of each situation. Make sure to include the names and addresses of everyone involved. Question 11 is very important because all applicants by law are required to be fingerprinted and have a criminal background check. CSLB will receive information on everyone included on the license through the California Department of Justice and the FBI as part of the application and fingerprinting process. This includes all misdemeanors and felonies, even if they're sealed or expunged. This includes juvenile and traffic violations. So on question 11, even if you can't remember all the details, it's best to check yes and disclose everything so that it matches the information CSLB receives from law enforcement agencies. Be as detailed as you can in your statement. The more information you provide, the better. If you need further clarification, you can get a copy of the Conviction Disclosure Form from our Forms and Applications section of our website. Having a conviction on your record does not mean you'll be denied a license. You can view CSLB's rehabilitation criteria for specifics. But if information received by CSLB doesn't match what you indicated on your application, it may be denied. Question 12 asks if the qualifier, anyone included on the application, and any immediate family, remember to refer to that listing from question 10, have received any administrative citations from CSLB, or if they've been on a license that has been denied, suspended, or revoked in California or elsewhere. If you check yes, include a detailed statement on a separate sheet of paper explaining the situation. Question 13 only pertains to the qualifying individual listed on the application and has to do with the level of supervising management the qualifier will have to provide for the license. Here's a hint. If you check no for this question, your application will be rejected. Question 14 should be answered by the qualifier only if they are a responsible managing employee or RME. Check the box if you will work at least 32 hours per week or 80% of the time per week for the business. In other words, check yes or your application will be rejected. Now, by law, to be eligible for a contractor license, all new businesses applying for a license must have more than $2,500 in operating capital. This includes equipment, tools, and cash. So for question 15, if you check no, your application will be rejected. Section 6 is only applicable if you've completed an educational or apprenticeship program. If you have, check yes, and be sure to include sealed official transcripts with your application. Based on units completed, CSLB may grant up to 3 years of credit towards the 4-year requirement. Keep in mind that your education must be relevant to the trade classification you're applying for. If you have a degree in philosophy and you're trying to get your C10 electrical license, chances are it won't count toward your work experience. Here's the part of the application where a lot of mistakes are made. The certification of work experience portion has 2 sections that need to be completed by the qualifier of the application and by the certifier. I'll explain who that is in a minute. Part 1 must be filled out by the license qualifier. Remember, that's the person who's applying for a license and has the hands-on trade experience. Most likely that's you. Like you have in previous sections, include your full legal name. On line 2, write in the business name of the qualifier's employer, their CSLB license number, and their physical address. If you are self-employed, make sure to check the box in this section and then go to line 4. For line 4, while very rare, if you're applying for a B general building license and have work experience as an owner-builder performing work on your own property, you may check yes. You'll need to include the construction project experience form on the very last page of this application and write a detailed list of completed projects on the form and attach copies of building permits from those projects. Part 2 must be filled out by the certifier, who is a person who has direct knowledge and has witnessed your work experience. It's important that all work experience is in the certifier's own words and that it is completed after the qualifier has completed Part 1. Don't fill this out yourself. For line 5, the certifier must check whether the qualifier was a full-time or part-time employee. The certifier can only check one. If the qualifier was in between full-time and part-time employment, they are considered part-time. For example, if you've worked for a business for 10 years, but only 50% of the time, you would check part-time. The certifier should only list journey-level work or higher experience on this form, and it must be applicable to the trade classification you're applying for. Line 6 requires the certifier to list all specific work duties that were performed or supervised within the classification the qualifier is applying for. Keep in mind that project management, office duties, and/or if the certifier did not witness the work being done, it does not qualify as journeyman level experience. The certifier must also print the qualifier's name on the line identified as Name of Qualifying Individual or Applicant, and check the box for the relationship between the certifier and the qualifier. The certifier must provide their physical address and phone number. If applicable, they can provide a fax number and email address. When all of the necessary information is complete, they should date, sign, and print their name at the bottom of the page. If any information on this page is forged, falsified, or incorrect, your application will be rejected or denied. Finally, the last page of the application. This section is rare for most applicants and is to only be filled out if the qualifier has experience as an owner-builder who is applying for a B General Building License. You would have answered this on the last page on line 4. If you said no, disregard this application page. But if you said yes, fill out the form, write a detailed list of completed projects on the form, and attach copies of the building permits. Go over your application one more time to make sure all areas are filled out and that the requested information is correct and complete. When you're done, mail your application along with your $300 application fee to CSLB at P.O. Box 26,000, Sacramento, California 95826. Once CSLB receives your application, you will be sent an acknowledgement letter that includes your application fee number and personal identification number or PIN. You'll use these numbers to check the status of your application and processing times on the CSLB website. Be careful not to share these numbers with anyone else, since they provide access to your personal information. When your application has been accepted and is considered complete, it will be marked as posted. Once it's posted, only changes to the business name and address can be made. Remember, your business name must match your business type and the license classification. CSLB will then send you a fingerprint package along with an exam date if applicable. We hope that you found this tutorial helpful. Remember, you can watch this video as many times as you need to. At the end of this video, you can click to revisit a specific section if you need clarification. Also, feel free to visit our website at www.cslb.ca.gov or call our Licensing Information Center at 1-800-321-2752, which is open Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Best wishes for a successful career as a California licensed contractor.